I get at UVE spend an hour scrolling through glossy product photos, dreaming about that perfect fish-finding screen, only to end up on the dock with a unit that looks great on the box, but can't keep up with the water you're actually on. I've seen enough friends buy a cheap chart plotter, get frustrated when the touch screen lags, and then wonder why they spent the money at all. That's why I'm doing this deep dive before you hit Add to Cart, so you can avoid that disappointment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Garmin GPSMAP 8612xsv is the 12-inch sibling in Garmin's marine lineup, promising a big, bright display, built-in Navionics Plus charts, and both traditional and scanning sonar in a single package. At first glance, it feels like a set-and-forget solution. The HD IPS touchscreen looks crisp even under bright sunlight. The mounting system is simple enough to bolt onto a small center console, and the included Grid 20 remote gives you quick access to common functions without having to dive into menus. But a big screen also means a bigger power draw and a larger footprint, so it's worth asking whether those trade-offs actually line up with your boating habits. Let's start with the installation. If you've ever wrestled with a chart plotter that required a custom fabricated bracket, you'll appreciate how straightforward the 8612xsv is. The mounting plate slides onto the pre-drilled holes you'll find on most standard consoles, and the unit bolts in with just a few screws. The cable harness is color-coded, which makes it harder to hook the power and antenna up wrong. For most owners, you can have the device physically attached within an hour, assuming you have a compatible 12-volt power source and a marine-grade antenna ready to go. The real work begins once you fire it up. Power consumption is where the size of the screen shows its bite. The 12-inch display draws noticeably more amps than Garmin's 7-inch models, so on a small boat with a limited battery bank you'll notice a dip if you run the unit continuously for several hours. In practice, I've found that pairing it with a dedicated marine battery or a smart alternator regulator keeps the system stable, but it's something you need to plan for. If you're on a compact inflatable or a day boat that only runs a short out and back, you might end up needing a separate battery just to keep the chart plotter alive, which adds cost and complexity. Now onto the day-to-day use. The HD IPS touchscreen is genuinely bright. Even at high noon, the map details stay legible, and the multi-touch gestures feel responsive. You can pinch to zoom on the Navionics Plus charts, swipe to pan, and tap to drop waypoints without the lag you sometimes see on older Garmin units. The charts themselves are fairly detailed for coastal waters. Depth contours, navigational aids, and even some offshore features show up cleanly. I've taken the unit out on a 22-foot fishing boat along the Chesapeake Bay, and the auto-zoom feature kept the view centered on the current position while still showing enough surrounding area to spot nearby shoals. The sonar side is where the 8612xsv starts to separate the serious anglers from the casual fish finders. It supports both traditional single-beam sonar and scanning sonar, and the live sonar mode streams real-time data straight to the screen, giving you a moving picture of fish activity as you drift. In a recent early morning run on a lake with a known crappie population, I switched to scanning mode at a depth of 12 feet, and the unit painted a clear, high-resolution image of the bottom structure and a handful of fish arches moving just a few inches above it. The Grid 20 remote made that switch painless. A single button press toggled between sonar types without pulling the main unit away from the helm. That said, there are practical limits you'll hit if you try to push the sonar too far. The unit only supports up to a 200 kHz transducer for scanning, which is fine for most freshwater and shallow saltwater applications. But if you're after deep-sea performance or need higher frequency detail for very shallow water, you'll need an external transducer that can handle those frequencies. The built-in sonar ports are compatible with Garmin's standard connectors, so you can upgrade the transducer, but that adds another expense that isn't included in the box price. Speaking of price, the 8612xsv lands in a higher bracket than many entry-level chart plotters. The cost is justified if you value the larger screen and the dual sonar capability, but you have to consider the ongoing costs of Navionics Plus updates. Garmin provides a year of map updates with the purchase, after which each annual renewal is a separate charge. For a fisherman who sails the same stretch of coastline year after year, that may not be a big deal. For someone who likes to explore new waters regularly, the subscription adds up, and it's worth weighing that against a cheaper model that relies on free charts. Who should walk away with this unit? If you run a medium-sized boat, say 20-30 feet, spend several days a week on the water, and need a reliable, high-resolution display for navigation and fish.